Hey friends, here I am to do another video looking at PhD stuff yet again. Last time I did a video, I looked at, or I made some AI generated content based on my own work. So here I have one of the loops that I fed the AI last time I made a video. It sounds like this. Cool. So yeah, that's what the original file sounded like. I made that in VCV Rack, as you can see from this file name here. And I ended up getting a result which I was pretty happy with based on that audio input. I set the AI tool that I was using, which is Stable Audio. I set that to a 70%. I think it was 70%. Maybe it was 75%. Sameness percentage for the generated output, and this is what I got from that generated output. So that's pretty much it. So what it's done is it's taken the bass line and the chords. It's slightly adjusted the chord in one section to make it a little bit darker, but only slightly. It's kept the bass line the same, and yeah, I think that it basically took what I originally gave it, but made it less glitchy, more kind of like mainstream, I suppose. But I also really like what it did with it. It kind of added this vocal to it, which I don't know where it got that from. But the vocal kind of really made it for me. I was like, oh, that's very cool what it's done there. And I was also like pretty happy that I managed to get this result by feeding it something which I had previously made. So with that in mind, I have since made a track here in Ableton, as you can see. I've got the original file, the original source audio here, which I looped. I've actually layered it 3 times so I can get sort of some parallel processing. Let's just have a quick listen to each of these elements. I'll play them one at a time. So that sounds largely like what we just heard. I am added a little bit of micro shift to sort of widen it a bit, and some EQ. Yep, just a bit of dynamic EQ. But then on this next track here, I have sort of squashed the hell out of it, really, with some devil lock here, bit of erosion to dirty it up. I've also used a micro shift here and a different EQ, sort of cutting out some of the bass, boosting some of the mids. Sounds like this. So, you know, similar, but just a bit grittier, a bit more fizzy on the high end. And this last one down here, I've added, again, there's still micro shift, there's still some Pro Q. Let's have a look at the EQ. So this one is like a real band pass situation, and some micro shift, some devil lock, some Valhalla vintage verb. Let's get rid of that. Which is at 100% wet, so we're getting like a lot of reverb on that. Some erosion, some more EQ, and more more reverb, and this wider plugin from Polyverse. And so all 3 of them together now sound like this. So if I just mute these and bring them in one at a time, that's our sort of largely unchanged original version. We add the high frequency, and then we add the space, which on its own sounds like that. It's this deep, washy space. So that's kind of what I did just to kind of get it into a place that felt more produced, more mixed, just nicer sounding, really. Just some parallel processing there. Sparkle it up a little bit, you know. But that section only really appears in this middle part here. Everything else is a result of splitting that audio, that original audio, into stems. So bass, drums, vocals, pads, which I then have heavily processed. I did use some of the bass from the original, like the splitted out stem from that original AI generation, which sounds like this. And again, it's just copied the bass line from my original piece, the VCV rack modular piece. And this here, I've just layered an operator playing a very slight, sort of mostly sine wave subby bass line, which sounds like this. So together they get a bit of that texture, but you mainly get the fundamental of that sort of sine wave bass. So I think that sounds really good. There's also a few other things here. The pads, which are extracted from the original file as well. I've doubled up on them, made like a sort of reverb version of it. Let's have a listen. I'll sort of bring it in maybe here because I do have some filtering happening. And I've got a lot of reverb on this as well. 2 reverbs, in fact. This amazing new one from Soundtoys Space Blender, and my other favorite, Black Hole. Yeah, a bit of Decapitator, really just sort of flattening out that pad, really giving it this huge space. There's another Black Hole here as well, which is cool. But yeah, like flattening it. When I say flattening, because I'm obviously adding all this space to it, it's not really flattening it, but I'm like sort of, I don't know, making it glacial, really spreading it out, you know, making it this nice bed for everything to sit on. So this is actually a good point to stop and talk about this, because I've noticed with a lot of the AI generative AI sort of the results that I've got from it often has this really intense pad sort of ambience in the background, and I found that using the AI to create ambient pads is actually like amazing because like you can make them on your own, and of course a lot of pads rely heavily on reverb as well, and I love reverb, but I don't know, there's something about the way the AI does it that kind of adds this shimmery kind of glistening quality to a lot of it, which you can hear here. But I also have this alternate version with different reverb, which I've sort of baked into the audio file. I like bounced it out. Let's have a listen. And together they sound like this. So I think that sounds really beautiful. We'll listen to the track in its entirety when I get to the end of this. I just want to talk through it first. That vocal that I mentioned earlier, that the AI just sort of added in, when I split it out, it sounded like this. I've obviously layered it 3 times with different results, different processing on each of the tracks, similar like the parallel processing I did before. So let's listen to what this sounds like all together. So yeah, it's this kind of ghostly sort of effect. Also, just here, there, whatever the AI has done to the vocal, it's added this kind of, I'll just click over here. It's added this extra, kind of an extra note in there, which which reharmonizes that chord in the track to make it this darker chord. My music theory isn't good enough for me to tell you what that chord is, but it's added this extra note that's reharmonized the chord and given it this dark quality in that third chord of the 4-chord sequence, which I just really love. It's added this darkness to what is otherwise quite a beautiful kind of lush piece, right? So I really like that about it. The other thing I took using the stem splitter to split out the original file is the drums, which is mostly just this percussive part here. Just play it. Now, I've processed it pretty heavily, again, doing some parallel compression, or parallel processing, I should say, on these 3 different versions of the same clip. So I'll just... That one sounds like that. This one's like high frequencies and squashed. And this one is kind of like, I don't know, lower frequencies, more squashed, more like parallel compression. And then I've layered a kick drum over the top, the kick drum is in the original beat. I extracted the MIDI from the original beat and just kept the kick drum, and I've layered these 2 kick drums together, and they sound like this. I'll just play the whole beat. So I'm pretty happy with that, right? And because the original like AI generated audio because it has this like spacey quality to it, I guess the track just ended up being kind of ambient. The drums only really come in about halfway through the track. And I've added all of this extra stuff, like these bells here, these bells and synth pluck. I don't know why my CPU is struggling. Maybe I'll just change the buffer size. I suspect it's because I'm recording in OBS. Oh, 64 samples. Why am I on 64 samples? That's crazy. Let's go back up to 512. Hopefully this doesn't crash. Great. Let's go from here. And so I got this sequence here by, again, using Ableton's extract MIDI from that original. That's a trick I like to use a lot. I'll extract MIDI from a sample. I'll take out the notes that aren't in the scale, and then I'll like quantize it as well. And you often end up with some really cool results. Yeah, and I've added all this extra stuff, a bunch of instances of this synth Cube, which I don't know if you know Cube. I don't know who I'm talking to. Cube's a pretty interesting synth, sample-based synth. It's like a kind of vector synthesis kind of thing, but I've added a bunch of instances of them across these 3 tracks here, which all together sound like this. And so, yeah, they're playing chords, which those chords I didn't extract with MIDI, I just found the chords and put them in. I've also added a piano in here. Which is playing largely the same chords. And this vibrato pad, which I really like. Which is from this OST Iris, or Osterus, which is basically an emulated, like literally emulated in the same way that you might emulate an old Nintendo console or something. It's an emulated Access Virus TI. TI2 specifically. So I used to have one of these synths, so it's really cool to be able to have access to all of those sounds again. I'm not going to tell you how to come across that. It's kind of not particularly legal, but very cool synth. So I'm using a few instances of that. Also this bell pad here, which is very nice. But yeah, that's kind of it. And of course, the arrangement is everything. Like, without the arrangement, what are you even doing? I've got this other element here, this stuttery verb thing, which I kind of created with some resampling and stuff of various elements. So that's cool. And then there's some rises here that I made as well, which I won't bother playing right now. But why don't we just listen to the whole track? I'll just let it play all the way through. I'm very happy with this track, I'll just say. And I, as is a sort of ongoing topic of my research for this PhD, in which I'm using generative AI as like a collaborator to make music, there's, of course I'm going to come under some sort of fire for, I guess, I don't know, using AI tools. You're going to get criticized for stealing music or any number of ethical issues that people have with AI. A big part of my research is addressing that. I've just written this huge piece of writing, which I'm about to upload to my Substack, which sort of talks about some of this stuff in some detail. But I guess the main point I'm trying to make, though, is that firstly, there's a number of things. One, I generated this original audio from a piece of music that I'd already made with a 75% sameness. So I've taken it from my own work to begin with. Secondly, once I have a loop, and it's just a loop, just a small loop, it's kind of like I'm remixing something. Like I've taken just one loop from somewhere and I've built a whole track around it. I don't see it as any different to that. I also don't see it as any different as finding a sample in a sample library and then basing a track around that as well. Of course, there are sort of copyright issues that you might want to consider when using the AI versus when using like a licensed sample pack or something. But the main point is that this original loop would be nothing unless I turned it into what it is. And when we play the track now, I think you'll understand what I mean, because it's very different from that original file. Let's just listen to that original file again. In the session here, it's gussied up a bit. It sounds much better, but this is the original loop. So I can't just loop that for 4 minutes and call it a day. You know, like I have to do some other stuff with it. I have to turn it into something that I like and that is representative of my aesthetic. And so much of making music is a curatorial process where you're just listening and deciding what works and what doesn't work. And it's the same here. It's no different. If you have anything to say about it, please let me know in the comments of this video, because I'm very curious to know what people think about this stuff, what I'm doing here. I definitely don't want any of this music to not sound like me. I want it to be my music. I'm using the AI as like a tool, as I would any music technology, synthesizers, sequencers, modular, whatever. I don't see it as any different. It's really largely the same. Without further ado, let's just listen to the track. So yeah, that's the track. Some reverb just fades away. I really like it. And it sounds like a finished piece versus just a fragment. Which, that's how I would argue most musicians work. They come up with a little fragment and then they turn it into a full finished piece. Nothing starts fully formed. It all starts with just a nugget, a little kernel of an idea. And this is no different. I just feel like I need to make that point. Like using this original, this AI generated piece of audio, which is then based on a piece of work that I made. I feel total ownership over this effectively. Yeah, just like in all music production, especially in this modern era of DAWs and non-linear editing and sound design, digital audio, all of this stuff. So much stuff is automated. So much stuff is there to help you, as a tool to help you complete your work, to come up with ideas. Everything in music is like, let's help you out. Let's make everything about it easier and easier. Let's make it democratized. Let's give the tools to everybody. And I love that. But that doesn't mean that anybody can come in and just make something amazing. You still have to have a good ear. You still have to have a musical mind, an aesthetic goal. You still have to have that curatorial mindset. And that's really what makes good music, I think, is knowing what works, what doesn't, and how to tell a story. So yeah, that's sort of the cliff notes of my ideology around this stuff. If I weren't doing this if I weren't focusing on AI for my PhD, I don't know if I'd be doing this. I don't know if I'd be incorporating AI, but the process of doing it and what I've discovered along the way and the music that I've made using it, I'm extremely happy with. So I don't see it as a negative. It's just another tool that we can use. And that's going to be, I suspect that's going to be how I feel about this the whole way through the whole way through the process of working on my PhD and all the writing that I'm doing and all of the music that I'm making. But yeah, if you have any ideas or thoughts on that, please let me know. I'm always open to thoughts, critiques, any of that stuff. But in terms of this piece, I'm very satisfied with it. I think it came out really good. So I just wanted to share it here and talk through some of the process. And that's going to do it for this video. Look at my Substack, because very soon, perhaps when this video is uploaded, there will be a very long piece of writing that I've been working on for a while, which, I don't know, I feel like it's a bit all over the place, but I think it encapsulates a lot of how I'm feeling about AI in the world. Yeah, just the current state of affairs, at least according to me. So yeah, stay tuned for that, and I'll see you in my next video, which will probably be very soon. Bye.